Awesome. Hello, everybody. Uh, like Josh said, I'm Mike, and this is
Tara.
Kara. And yeah, we run a studio called Smith Diction. There's so many people here. We designed this for, I think, like 50 people. So there's a lot more. So I'm hoping that you guys can get something out of this. I was telling Josh before we started that I actually tried to go to school to be a history teacher and like failed out of that and went to art as a backup plan. So I always try to give back to my history teaching roots in some way, shape, or form. So these are all just things that I've learned over time that hopefully they can help you guys with your businesses and your design practice and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Is that it?
very exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, we make logos. We've made a lot of logos. That's kind of what people typically know us for. We've been around for about 10 years now, which is absolutely crazy. Josh and I probably sat down 10 years ago, this at this exact moment, and talked about me doing some work for Blue Cadet, and that really kind of started the beginning of Smith and Diction, which was great. But yeah, we've made a lot of logos, and recently we made this one for Perplexity with our buddy Fee and Henry over there, and Justin Laws animated this beautiful thing, and this thing like blew up further than we could have possibly imagined, and I'm just so grateful to be, I always like to say right place, right rocket ship, and we were just right place, right rocket ship. They took off and have been doing really incredible things with the brand ever since, and just so proud to be a little piece of that AI puzzle. Before that, if you're a Smith and Diction fan, you may have known us from this logo. This was a logo we created with Luke Beard for this company called Exposure. It was kind of like Tumblr for photographers and a really awesome way to kind of document things inside of longer story forms instead of it just being like a social platform. It was much more story oriented. And I love to always show this one because this logo feels like it was the one that people started taking us seriously as a studio. It just felt like we entered a different kind of vernacular, a different kind of piece of the design world, and it just felt so good. I love it. I have it back there too. So, and then funny enough, Josh asked me to make the logo for this podcast platform. So I made this logo. I don't even know, Josh, like what, 5 years ago now? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah,
Way longer, way longer,
way
Yeah.
way
longer.
longer.
And so, yeah, we made the Future Spaces logo to give them a quick little plug.
Proof of how long we've known Josh.
And it's so funny how, like, every conversation matters throughout your whole life and career. And I'm just grateful to, be a small part of that in the beginning and now being part of this now. It feels really cool. But yeah, we make logos. That's kind of what gets us up in the morning, and that's what we're really excited about doing.
Yeah, technically speaking, we're a branding and design studio. So if you don't know who we are, so we build brands here in Philadelphia and we do a lot of things. We make thoughtful identities for imaginative clients. That's what we tell people.
Yeah, we trademark that, so we have to say it as much as possible.
But realistically, what people often come to us for is logos.
But any designer knows, and every design influencer always tries to capitalize on this every other week and say, brand is more than a logo. We all know this, but clients don't know.
Clients don't always know this. So a couple of years ago, we actually put out another document. Basically, we thought, let's explain to our clients that there is more to this than just, hi, can I get a logo and can I see it tomorrow? This is actually a process, and brand is much bigger than that. So we put something out called our process document. We put this out into the world. We shared the Figma file. If you look on the internet, I'm sure you can find it if you haven't seen it already. And basically, this outlined our branding process in 10 steps. It was designed originally to educate our clients to say, yeah, we know you want that logo, but that logo actually doesn't come till a little down the road. First, we need to do a lot of research and strategy and figure out who you are and understand what the right logo for you is.
Yeah, so it was broken down into 10 steps, but realistically, every designer only cared about these two steps. And these two steps also have like 45 steps within inside of them. And so a lot of the times when we were like thinking about this document, we weren't aiming it at designers. So designers were always like, tell us more about this zone. And so specifically about this zone. And then we went on a podcast and talked about how we approach moves, or what we call moves. And then every question we got after that was just like, what the heck are moves? What are you even talking about? What is this thing?
Yeah, so we call it brand work when we talk to clients, which is just, let's show you what the brand looks like at work when all the pieces of your brand are working together. When we talk internally with our team, we say, we need some more moves for this. That's the word that we use. But you're probably still wondering, what are moves? And what a weird word.
Yeah, so Cara and I met working at an agency called 160 over 90 in Philly 13 years ago. And when we were working there, they had a ton of higher education clients and sports clients. So notoriously in higher education and sports, you really can't change the logo without massive upheaval of public opinion. So when we were working there, all we were doing was creating moves. And Cara had a really great way of explaining that about what the client was expecting
Yeah, so
and why we call them moves.
they would come to us and say, we need something new and fresh and different. We want to stand out. We want to feel like we're totally reinvented. But oh, by the way, we're Duke University. You cannot touch our blue and you cannot touch our logo.
Yeah.
Of course, we're not going to change the way Duke is written. So we had to come up with ways to make a brand around an existing logo. So we learned how to build a brand made out of moves, of all the different pieces that you can do that don't touch a logo. So from our perspective, moves are everything except your logo. Put your logo aside. And back when we worked at that agency, they did a really wonderful test, and they would say this at the beginning of a presentation, that, you know, this work should feel like you even without your logo on it.
Yeah.
And so often in the world these days, people are like, well, I know it's Nike because it's got the Nike logo, but can it feel like Nike without the Nike logo?
Yeah, and that was kind of how we grew up, was just not using logos at all. And a fun fact is when we started Smith Diction, I had not designed a single logo. But at that point, like I was just really good at doing brand and color and type, but I was like, I guess I'll try to make a logo, but we'll see. And so you know, there are a lot of different approaches to moves, and these are just a few. This is not the full exhaustive list of moves. These are just moves that we like to go through and try to check off every time that we are developing a brand. Um, because it's just a way for us to make work that feels fresh and feels exciting. And just having this list of moves allows us to go down the list and be like, okay, do we need to do any product illustration? How are we doing on layout? Do we need actions? Do we need motion? Do we need patterns now? And it just gives you that toolkit to then approach making more stuff.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's really interesting for us, we talk to a lot of people about building out that brand toolkit. And a lot of people come to us and they say, we want a brand, we want type, we want color, and we want a logo. And that's as far as they can think in terms of what they might have in their toolkit. And from our perspective, we say that's not enough. We want to make sure that you have a very robust toolkit, many different things you can use in many different ways. And we want to share some of those with you today.
Yeah. And so the first thing that we're going to talk about is layout. That's like the easiest thing to talk about. And while we're talking about layout, we also talk about type. And so what Cara just said is true. A lot of places that come to us are just like, I just want a typeface, colors, and a logo. And then that's the brand. And it's true. You can pick a really cool typeface that feels quirky and cute, and then that's the brand move, and then you're done. But like Cara said, I don't think that that's enough. I think that there needs to be some more kind of pieces around that. And like we were saying, it's like at the end of the day, every place that you work, whether it's retail, restaurants, startup, or something, the bathroom is going to break. And the worst person in the world is going to have to make a sign that says this bathroom is closed. And so we always do this test that we call the bathroom test, where you can type out bathroom is closed and it feels like your brand.
And this is our test to see, is this typeface, does it qualify as a move? Now, there are so many typefaces in the world, and if you're using Inter as your brand typeface, there's a lot of good reasons to use that. It's very functional, it's universal, but it's not going to pass the bathroom test, which is what we call it. It's not going to be ownable. It's not going to feel branded with nothing else other than black type on a white background saying bathroom closed. This typeface, however, does pass the bathroom test, and it has enough to be a move in and of itself.
Yeah. And so while we're talking about type, we've been categorizing and organizing type for as long as we could read. And I think that that is something that is really important. Like organizing type like this is a move, but we think that you can organize type in layouts and things like that to convey emotion, not just information. And that's where this move actually comes into play. So we've also actually laid out newspapers for our clients. So you can just have a nice, simple, structured newspaper that you can, we work in this building called the Bach Building, which has 200 different tenants in it now. And so quarterly, they put out this newspaper to feature some of those clients. So we wanted to create a system that allowed the creativity of the clients to come through in the photography, but the structure of the newspaper itself is very, very out of the way and transparent. Same thing here for a garden company or what is it, a garden center. It's like you can have beautiful photography, beautiful art direction, and just really simple copy with a nice logo up there. This is like the baseline of what a layout could be. And then you can decide to kind of break that grid or use that grid to create an emotional feeling. So we were working with this company called Soto, which was developing a really soft spoken piano. And while we were doing that, we wanted the brand to feel poetic and almost like the type was floating in the wind. And so we were breaking the grid to create this wind sort of windswept editorial feeling, which felt really, really important to tie to the instrument itself. Same thing here. You can use this grid and break this grid to feel like you are future oriented, a project that maybe is in the AI space and wants to feel like very different. This company is in the supplement industry, which is hyper boring. And so we wanted to break the grid to make sure that it felt like a new contender in an exciting way.
Yeah, absolutely. How better to make something feel like it is the future than to give the type a sense of movement.
Yeah. And so this is the project Josh brought to us called the Rail Park, which is a public park here in Philadelphia. And for something like a public park, you need to make sure that you're keeping things pretty straightforward. So a really structured, solid grid system that isn't too exaggerated and isn't too wild. But there's always still room to take simple structure and turn it on its side to make it feel like something that has a little bit more personality. This is literally just the most basic grid that exists. But then just by turning it on its side, it created this thing that felt a little bit more unique than just something than a regular pamphlet that you would pick up for a
Yeah,
book.
and I think it like reminded people that, oh, I'm in a physical park and I should remember which way I'm looking in the park, and that sort of steps you out of simply looking at a piece and reminds you that you're in the world.
Yeah, and we also, when we were designing this map, it was like the on the left side, we were like battling with like, do we do it north facing? Do we not do it north facing? So we tried to design this map so it could be read any direction that you held
Absolutely.
the booklet. And then sometimes you can use type as the structure of the grid underneath of things too. So for this company called Paradigm, it's an art gallery here in Philly. We actually used the logo to create the grid, the logo height to create the grid that we then built all of the stuff on top of, which was really exciting and a simple way to kind of have everything tied back to the original structure of the logo.
Yeah.
And then that ended up being turned into this beautiful animation, which again just used a grid and broke down this grid with typography. And yeah, we just love kind of how flexible this thing feels. It's breaking the grid intentionally.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, especially because they are an art gallery wanting to be seen in that space, this helps put them there of it's all intangible, everything is moving and always constantly shifting.
Yeah, the collection's changing, all the way even the medium of the art is changing. So why not have that be involved with the logo system itself? I was joking with Josh. This is the second chapter. So I was joking with Josh. I grew up in the era of like Lydia.com or Lynda.com or whatever, and PSD toots dot whatever. And so I grew up like using Photoshop brushes and Photoshop actions in the heyday of Photoshop. And to me, like it was kind of like Photoshop Actions was like the AI before AI. You kind of put your photograph in it and it would turn magically into something else. And so I still kind of sit on Creative Market and Studio 2 AM or whatever, and I just always go through like the stuff that people are doing with Photoshop Actions, and I'm like, what can you do in there now? And I feel like a lot of people kind of like left it in the dust that when Figma and AI tools got there. But I want to walk you through something that we created with some Photoshop Actions that we feel were really exciting. So this company is called Interior. It's in the AI healthcare space. And that's two things that everyone loves. So we wanted to make sure that we did it right. But yeah, we created this little A logo and then tossed it into Endless Tools, which is kind of a browser-based 3D tool, which I genuinely love. I would highly recommend checking it out. So we created this like 3D beveled A and then threw it into this Photoshop action that was called Acid Motion. And then when it created these like streaks of light around these things, and it just felt like, oh, wow, this feels super, super cool. So not only could we then do that with the logo, but then I was on Unsplash just pulling these kind of scientific looking things. And when we put it inside of the action, we were like, wow, this almost feels like MRIs. It kind of feels like a CAT scan. And so we were like, wow, this is really cool and replicable. So we were putting these medical imagery type things inside of this document. and creating like endless versions of things that felt like could be on brand.
Yeah, so I think this is a good time to talk a little bit too about moves and like what makes something a move, because this is a great example of what it has to be replicable, right? Like, if you just have one beautiful thing, one beautiful image, that might not be a move because you can use it, but then at some point you need to use something else.
Yeah, it gets tired.
What we consider to be a move is when you have something that you can do over and over and over again. So Photoshop action is a great example of that. You can take it, you can do it slightly different, you can apply it to different imagery, and you can get things that feel collectively like they live in the same brand, but they also are ownable and different in different ways.
So for instance, like on the back of a business card, you could have all different kinds of medical imagery and things like that that feel kind of like pseudo-medical. You could use it masked inside of the logo shape too. It doesn't always have to be kind of like this like textural thing. It can be inside of stuff and contained. We were using it on things like proposal covers and things like that. And this is always a trick that I do. Like this is just like a 16 by 9 like thing that we made, and I just put like the binder on it, and all of a sudden it feels a little bit more cool.
Real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then same thing with like social media and posters that they have around the interior office. Again, it's just showcasing that this move kind of has endless iterations and still feels like it's in the same family. So another move that I feel is overlooked, and the reason that why I was trying to make number 2 and number 3 like these kind of secret things that everybody kind of overlooks a lot of the time. Patterns are something I go to every single time, and they're so easy. So when we were working with Perplexity, we designed this logo, this really kind of geometric boundless book logo, and the Perplexity team was like, "Whoa, this is cool! Like, can you guys just like try to make some patterns that we could put in the backgrounds of our Zooms and things like that?" And I was like, that sounds like super cool. So I wonder if I can take the Perplexity logo, repeat it upon itself, and then it will create this like almost like Art Deco pattern. So if you look in here, like that's just the logo right there, and then it's just multiplied on top of each other and all that kind of stuff, and it creates this sort of beautiful Art Deco feeling. And then they were like, okay, cool. And then all of a sudden it showed up in the product. It showed up in the background of their iPhone app. This is their new browser called Comet. It's in the background of the assistant section where it just adds this like little dimension where you're just like, oh, that's the Perplexity zone. Instead of it feeling like, black and, dead,
Yeah.
it has this like thoughtful space.
And that's the perfect definition of why moves are so important. If you didn't have that pattern, it would almost feel like there was something missing. All you need is that subtle pattern. It's not in the way, it's not distracting, but it fills the space really nicely.
So then we started replicating that same kind of pattern. This is for that that supplement company called Ingredient AI that we were talking about. You guys spend so long making these really beautiful geometric logos. Like all you need to do is outline them and replicate them, and I guarantee you're going to find something that feels really beautiful. So in the digital space, these are great for patterns or loading backgrounds or anything like that. And I think that that is such like a really easy thing to reach for off the toolkit that is a low lift, doesn't take a lot of design thought, but can still create a branded energy to your product.
Super ownable.
And it also works inside of the physical space as well. So when we were working on an Asian skincare line called Sabbatical Beauty here in the building that we work in, they loved this kind of shining lotus motif. And we were like, we can totally make a pattern out of that. So then we created this pattern and then used it throughout the brand. Like they could use it as tissue paper and wrapping paper to wrap up their products. And it just created that extra touch that felt like a special branded moment inside of this, this box that was really boring.
Yeah.
Same thing here for like something like a step and repeat. Like it doesn't always have to be made out of the logo. Like this was for an event that was in California on the beach. So we were kind of having some beach motifs and things like that where we could utilize all of these, illustrative elements, put them into this kind of scattered pattern. And then this could be like, as you entered into the event, this could be step and repeat. This could be the backgrounds of the screen while the stage people were figuring it out. And then you can like totally abstract some of that stuff that you just saw on the last slide, where like we just took pieces out of that pattern, overlapped them on top of each other, and then all of a sudden you can put that onto a notebook or something like that, and you have a different move inside of a move, which I think is really, really exciting.
Yeah, your pattern moves becomes an illustration move.
Yeah. Speaking of illustration move, that's our next one. So when I first started design, I approached design through an illustration lens. I was really excited about drawing things and getting deep into the details of like spot illustrations. But then I kind of moved my attention mostly into logos and illustrating things in logos. So now I work with other illustrators when I'm working on things. So something that's really fun that we worked on most recently, and I'm really hyped about this brand, is this brand called Living Roots, which is a winery up in the Finger Lakes of New York, and also the Adelaide Hills of Australia. And so we were working with our friend Jeff to create this mascot that was kind of a bit of a nuisance inside of the winery. And he maybe would be out in the vineyard, like stealing grapes or drinking wine from the cellar. And we were just like, this character just provides this like jovial quality to an otherwise pretty serious.
Yeah, he adds like a levity, that they're not taking themselves too seriously. And especially because wine is meant to be enjoyed, why not have this joyful angle to an otherwise pretty serious brand?
Yeah. And so we presented this kind of as the wild card thing to do. And the client was like, oh my gosh, we need to make so many more of that mascot. So like they were doing some stuff where like they were partnering with the local baseball team, where we got Jeff to draw him with the wine bottle as the bat. They were doing a tour in Germany, so they were like, let's get him in some lederhosen. They had a Galentine's event at the winery, so they wanted to have this Cupid version. And then also for holiday gifting, they had Rudy is this mascot's name, dressed up as Santa delivering gifts instead of stealing them, which was,
very nice.
We could have went the stealing route.
A nice twist.
Yeah.
Kind sometimes.
And then like these things pop up everywhere throughout the winery on like frisbees, coloring pages, matchbooks, posters that they sell, bumper stickers. And this is like the epitome of a move working really well. And so here we also did another mascot for a coffee shop here in Philadelphia. It's a Vietnamese coffee roaster. And I was really deep in the research phase of this. I was like, a Vietnamese dragon and a Chinese dragon are two very different dragons. So having this mascot and having this mascot be specifically Vietnamese was this perfect little like nod to the insider baseball, like if you know, you know. And the antlers and everything mean certain things. The number of claws mean a certain and I just love the idea that like he can roast the beans.
Yeah, that's the part that I love the most, is like, why a dragon? Well, somebody has to roast the beans. Why not a dragon? I love the concept of dragon roasted beans, if you know what I mean.
Just one by one, super hard work dragon. And then sometimes illustration can be used to convey like simple information. We were designing for a phone, and so we were messing with some different kinds of things like how do you show camera, how do you show battery life, in a way that's like a little bit more engaging, a little bit more exciting, putting it inside of this like 3D chip that just gives it a little bit more of a presence. And then also illustration can sometimes accidentally become a logo, which I think is really cool. We were working on a bookshop opening up in Swarthmore, right outside of the city here in Philly. And they are building this bookshop inside of an old shoemaker's, like cobbler's.
Yeah, originally the building was a cobbler.
Yeah.
And they wanted to pay homage to that because it's got the same like historic roots in the space. And they were like, is there a way to do like a shoe book logo? And we were like, sure,
what the heck? Yeah, we were like, I guess. So Summer had drawn this character that had, it's a little character holding a book that has these fancy shoes. And they were like, that's perfect. That should be the logo. And we were like, yeah, that should be the logo.
So fun. Absolutely.
And so it turned into the logo. So sometimes illustration, if you do it right, can also become a logo. Maybe not the most simple geometric replicable logo, but it can become a fun, exciting logo.
Yeah, when you're a bookshop, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. And then same thing for Group X here. This was one of my favorite symbols we worked on. This is an anonymous art collective here in Philadelphia. They do really like magical, mythical feeling public art installations all throughout the city. And so it's a group of people. It's a whole collective of people. So as I was drawing this character, I was just like, oh, it's got to have multiple heads so it can represent all of the different people that are involved in this thing. And then I would love if it had like kind of magical qualities to it. And so that's why it turned into this weird dragon. And because like the things that they create are like large scale octopus tentacles hanging out of buildings.
Really cool.
And so I was like, we got to get weird with this one, which felt really, really cool. Sometimes you can use illustration to convey a sense of place as well. So we are working on a hotel out in Yellowstone. It's in West Yellowstone, Montana, which we're super, super excited. I can't wait to go out there. But we used illustration to be like, to put people in the place that it is. Because this could just be the same cute kind of like regular illustration that every startup uses. Or we could make it have a little bit more honesty to it, a little bit more kind of the era, of the space, of the time feeling. Like this kind of like cross-stitched little horse there ties to some like old nodded or like an old nod towards, weaving and blankets
Yeah,
and
that
like,
culture. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Western culture.
So this was a super, super fun one. Can't wait to show more of this. Like I think it's opening in like a year from now.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Next time.
And then sometimes illustration can just be dumb fun, which I think like it's really important to have dumb fun inside of design. A friend of mine was opening a skate shop in New Hampshire, and I was just like, okay, what do I know about New Hampshire? Nothing. I know ships. There's ports there. Ship in a bottle. Skateboard in a bottle.
Done.
Done. And then it just went. Now he like puts this on hats and shirts and all kinds of things. If you are a skateboarder, you also know this is a nod towards Crail Tap, which is like the girl chocolate parent company. So it's kind of again like if you know kind of situation. And I just had a ton of fun with this one. One of the most recent things kind of that has been taking over inside of moves is motion. Cara was reading this, I think, LinkedIn post from the guy who runs this motion studio called Bucko. And he was saying that motion is the body language of the brand. And I think that was just like so.
It is such a beautiful way to convey how important it can be. And I think it's a really great way it's a really beautiful analogy for what motion has become. It's so important. And motion is how you can really take a person and make them feel like they're in the same space as your brand. Instead of just looking at your brand, instead of being an observer, they're right there with you through motion.
Yeah. And the thing that really kind of sold it for us in this new wave of design was Perplexity. So before there was this boundless book spinning and doing this beautiful stuff, there was actually this. And it was super, super simple. I sent this to my friend Justin. I sent him like an Illustrator wireframe of like, I want to have this thing type out, this cursor type out. And then the cursor spins at the end to be like, it's thinking now. The AI is doing its thinking part of it. And when he sent this over, I like honestly like gasped because I was like, this feels like it was exactly what it was meant to do. Like at this time, AI was still taking quite a bit of time to generate responses. So we needed to develop a symbol and a logo vernacular that would allow motion and allow thinking to be part of what it was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like truly this animation, not only did we love it the minute we saw it, but I think this is the whole reason that the client was like, yep, we'll buy it. We'll take it because that makes sense. It feels right. And it fits with what the interactions with our brand are going to be.
Yeah. And so now we've been chasing that high ever since. And so now we've been making logos for other people and utilizing their logos and specifically designing them for loading states or generating states because sometimes AI is still taking a bit of time to generate some thoughts and things and whatnot.
This is like the modern version of like elevator music when you're on hold with a healthcare company. Like you need to know that like it's a 9-minute process for this AI to do whatever magical thing it's doing. You want to make sure that it hasn't timed out, and this is how you convey that.
Yeah, and it's just like you could simply default to Apple's loading states, or you could use your own. And this is something that we've been actively doing with pretty much all of our logos now. You can also use motion to convey senses of energy. And I think that that is also just like a really important part of brand. We have phones now that are just tiny TVs in our pockets, and animation is like going to be a must-have for most logos and most brand identity things. So even these are just PNGs that are looping, in this really kind of beautiful way. You can do this with something like Jitter or Rive or something like that. And now we can do this simple stuff that just shows that brands can exist outside of 1920 by 1080. You know what I mean? And here's a perfect example of what we were talking about before, where you can use this static logo from Group X and then just add a little bit of animation to it. And it just really kind of bridges the gap between static and motion. And it gives that livelihood to this brand. And something that I will like always personally go into the hole for animation on my projects. Like, does a wine company need a walking mascot? Absolutely not. Do I spend the extra money and work with my friends to do it? 100%. So I got my buddy James Didvig to animate this guy, and it's just the mascot you saw before, but he's just walking and having fun. And it's just something that I get to put in my portfolio as a really fun asset to make that brand have extra personality. This is something that I'm super excited about. We recently rebranded Gamma, which is like an AI PowerPoint software. It's super, super exciting. Their whole thing is that they can kind of change your whole PowerPoint like super, super quickly over themes and information. And something that we were working on, this ended up not being the chosen direction, but when I presented this to them, I was so, so excited because I was like, yeah, so every letter is a different typeface. And then when it explodes, every letter turns into a different version of that letter because of this endless kind of animated
Yeah.
interface.
And they said, oh my goodness, we love it. Absolutely not.
Absolutely
Totally
not.
impractical. And they went with the other direction, which is fine, which you can go to
Yeah.
gamma.app and see today.
So the one thing about this is that I loved that you could take motion and you could imagine taking a screenshot of any of these exploded features, and that could be put on a billboard or put on an ad campaign, and it would still feel just alive and exciting and really kind of different than most approaches to motion.
Really interesting.
And then sometimes motion can be used to convey this sense of elevated vibe as well. So where this logo might feel like really boring and static when it was just sitting by itself, while it has that slight little arch to it, it creates this sense of space that it's living in the world around you. And that's what I'm saying. You don't need to overthink motion. Motion can be just an ever so subtle, really small pivot and bounce. So we put AI tools last because I know that some designers will probably boo me off the call at this point for even entertaining
This
this.
is future spaces, so we have to talk about AI.
So we are not anti-AI. We are AI curious. We like to think about AI.
Yeah, and I think that the way that we look at AI as a studio is, you know, a lot of AI companies out there there's a lot of conversations around how AI is going to replace current creative methods and how AI can make you much more efficient. And to me, that's boring. I'm not really interested in how AI can make me more efficient. I get plenty done. But what we are interested in is what does AI make possible that was literally impossible before we had AI? What is the messy and interesting? How can AI make us more creative as opposed to more efficient? And that is what we like to use AI for at our studio.
Yeah, and so the perfect example of that is Alma. We put out this case study earlier this year, and Pentagram put out their case study with that they'd used all of generative AI for as well, and it kind of became this battle between me and Pentagram of like who used it for the better. And I would love to just give a little bit of background about this.
Yeah, I think it's really important to start with Alma is a food tracking app, right? So you can type in anything that you ate, or you can just say it, you know, hold down the microphone button and say, hey, I had some avocado toast for breakfast. And then it will track it, tell you how much that was worth, help you get against your goals for how much protein you want to get, how much weight you want to lose, that kind of thing. Really cool. And they had this idea that, oh, what if no matter what you say, we could generate a specific image of anything that you said in the world. Now, the reason this was really interesting to us is because without AI, this is utterly impossible. There's no way that any illustrator on the planet or photographer or icon designer could make every food that exists on the planet in a way that's interesting. But AI can. Yeah. So we said, what's an interesting way to use AI to solve this particular problem?
And so Alma means soul, and Rami, the guy in charge over there, was like, okay, like I just love the idea that food feels like art. It has soul. Like, what if we could have some artistic expression inside of this brand? And we were like, that sounds great. So in the mood board phase, like I always like to build a week or two of mood boarding for us. And I even do a little bit more exploring outside of just pulling imagery. Sometimes I'll go into some tools, I'll draw, I'll sketch, I'll do some things like that. So I went into Visual Electric and was like, okay, artistic dinner. And then this thing came out and I was like, I hate this. So then I typed in something else and I got this one and I was like, this is worse. This feels awful. And then I was like, all right, we're going to try one more time. And it spit out. I was like, you got to be shitting me. This is like one of the worst things I've ever seen. I was like, okay, I give up on AI. AI sucks. I'm not going to use it. Forget it. Like, whatever. And then I went back to mood boarding and doing my regular ways of doing things. So then after mood boarding, and I was like, okay, like maybe I'll try again. I went back in and I got this picture of an avocado spat back out, and I was like, that's actually quite beautiful. I really think that maybe I can do something with this. So then I tried again to make make it work for what we needed to do. And I was like, you son of a bitch. It put the top of the tomato in the middle of the tomato. Why? Like that's like such a silly thing. And of course AI would do something like that. So I was like, gosh, I think that this can't do what I want it to do. But then in Visual Electric, they have like categories. So you can be like airbrush, collage, film, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And then so I selected the collage thing and was like, oh my gosh, I think this is going to work because you don't mind this watermelon sailboat when it's collaged because you're just like, it kind of doesn't matter if it is realistic to what it needs to be. So then I started generating more and more of these things and was like, oh my gosh, this feels really, really exciting.
From a concept standpoint, I love this direction because if you're making a meal, isn't that just kind of collaging with food? Like, isn't that the same thing? You take all these disparate parts and smash them together and make a meal. So why not have collage be an essential element of your brand? I always love it when the design works conceptually as well.
So the fun thing about this is I was doing this all before the mood board phase. So I actually made a quick little GIF of like these three things, tossed it in the bottom right corner of a mood board, and just left it there. Kind of talked about it a little bit when we were presenting moods, and was like, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think of this bottom thing? And they're like, that's amazing. That's beautiful. And I was like, fun fact, I made that. And so we just got to inject that into the brand. And so then we got to making a ton of these things. So just making endless iterations of what we could do with these collages and different kinds of paper textures and background colors, and just really kind of finessing this thing. So these were the things that we loved. But just for every one of those, you also got three of these horrible ones. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, why is that there? Why is there a slide next to chicken nuggets? Like, you gotta always know that there's always going to be a badness that comes with AI, and you have to bake that into the process of how you're approaching this stuff. So we got this really cool thing, and it felt really exciting, and then we ended up, using that tool.
Really fun.
And so now what we're talking about in the future, I'll let you kind of take it.
Yeah. So, and that's, we did that, oh my gosh, almost a year ago now. Really fun. And since then, we've been doing way more weird stuff. And the thing we've been doing really, really recently is actually we've been working with Gavin from Datalands, and he's super smart, like with technology, and he's been building stuff that's even on the edge of what we think is possible.
Yeah.
We can't share this whole project yet because it's literally still in the works and isn't going to reveal for another month, but it's super interesting. So Gavin built this tool using Figma Make that allows the client to export all kinds of different, basically patterns, but also designs. They can be based on photographs. They can be using lines or plus marks or dots or ASCII characters or triangles. You can use all these different inputs. You can upload a photo to make sure that it matches that and its tone. You can export it in whatever colors you want. And this is a tool that then we hand over to the client, and they can build whatever they want. When we talk about moves, this is the epitome of moves. They have literally endless iterations of this that they can create and use their brand. Because when we talk about moves, it has to be repeatable, it has to feel ownable, and it has to be something you can make more and more and more of. And so we're really excited about what we've been building with Gavin and can't wait to share it with the world.
Yeah. And so the things to take away from this is like, we're in this really weird moment where we're using new tools to build newer tools. And when you're doing that, it gets messy, it gets ugly, it gets weird. But our job as creatives is to find the magic inside of that mess, and to dig around and find the things that are on the cutting room floor that really have that magic. So I know it feels really weird, but you just got to find that magic. That's the whole point. And my last takeaway is like, make work that you're proud of. Don't rely on the tools to think for you or to export ideas for you. And in this age of good enough, it's really important to be exceptional. That is something that I think no tool will replace, no AI will replace. And that's all we had for you guys. Sorry we went over. Sorry.
We cut into question time. I'm sorry.
Oh, amazing. No. Mike, Car, amazing. All right. So, all right, let's go into, let's see everybody. And then if you have questions, just like go camera on, raise your hand, and let's start it up.
Stop sharing, Josh, so we can see everybody.
Oh, yeah. You want to stop sharing for a second? Sorry, thanks.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Hello. Oh, I gotta take a
Oh my
video.
gosh, all the people.
Oh
I know.
my gosh, I love this. People
It's
that
kind
I
of
know
fun,
from-
right?
Wait,
It's kinda
everybody
fun.
give me a wave. Give me a wave. I'm doing it in 1 second. Hey.
Oh, I love this.
Oh man, that's so sweet. Thank you everybody for being here. This is so sweet to see everybody.
There is something lovely about this format. Nirmal, you have a question. All right, just got to unmute.
Yeah, hello there. All right, yeah, I didn't expect to be picked so quickly then. No, that was a really nice presentation. So thank you for that. It's given me sort of inspiration things that are going to hang on way after this call finishes. I mean, yeah, lots of great techniques and processes that I've seen you using, and it seems like you're quite artistic in the way that you do things. So yeah, quite impressed with that. But I think one of the things I was just wondering was like, what are your preferred like softwares for animation? I know there's quite a choice, but I was just intrigued to see that what you might have used to yeah, help make those things.
Yeah, so good question. I don't know shit about animation. Uh,
Caleb, what do we use?
I hire everybody to make my animation. Uh,
Okay.
no, we use After Effects. I've been trying to get Summer to learn a little bit of jitter. There's some like Cinema 4D and like the glassy texture things. Redshift is like a different thing that does that as well. There's Spline that does some interesting things. Yeah, there's all kinds of new tools out there that do really, really cool stuff.
All right, excellent. Jordan, you have a question?
Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome to talk to you guys. You guys are huge inspiration. I'm just curious on the brand building portion of when you're creating the whole world around these brands, how many hours do you guys typically spend on that phase?
On the whole brand building?
Hmm.
As a whole, great question. So we basically try to take on one big brand project at a time, and it's about 6 weeks, but there's about 3 to 4 weeks in the middle where that's really the main thing that our team is doing.
So it's 4 weeks
So
of
5 people's time,
5 people
so
full time.
whatever that math works out to be, but it's about that amount of time is like dedicated to building brand, and then you make some revisions and call the team. You don't need everybody working on it.
And I think the main thing to remember is that logos are extremely hard. So like let there be 2 weeks for you to like bash your head against the wall and research and do all that stuff. Get lost in sketches, get lost in and all that different kind of stuff. Because like a lot of people are just like, okay, I'm gonna have 3 days to do the logo and 5 days to do this stuff. And you can, but you'll probably like inherently end up copying something just because it feels easy. And that is something that I think is really important to think about in all of this like sprint stuff that's happening. It's just like, yeah, you can sprint and make a logo really fast, but you're probably making it subconsciously because you've already seen it.
Mm.
Love it. All right. All right, here we go. Sorry, my eyes suck and I forgot my glasses. Aishwarya. I'm sorry if I butchered your name.
No, it's fine. You didn't. Hi everyone. I'm from India.
Yep.
I have a question. I've seen that guys make a lot of applications when you're presenting to clients, especially logo animations before the logo has been accepted.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand, has it ever happened that whenever you've handed over these applications that a client has not used any of them? Like if you created a newspaper but they're not using it,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
like I just like, because when we're working on brands, sometimes a lot of studios consider that as a wasted effort, and I don't want that to be. I would love to work on multiple applications, but studios just end up considering it as a wasted effort. So what is
yeah.
your thought?
It's all worth it. And
It's all
like
worth it.
most of our time, most of our clients throw away about 90% of what we make. But I'm teaching myself new tools. I'm using new kinds of like applications. And that's just a learning thing for yourself. And that's how you make yourself a better designer and making brands have a little bit more breadth. And I think that that is super important for the client to see, even if they don't use it. I can't tell you how many times, like Perplexity, we made those patterns, and then like 3 months later, I saw it in the background of the app, and I was like, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
there's the pattern I made."
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of stuff where you'll be surprised that they'll just go pick it up like a year later. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And even if the client never uses it, which often happens, I mean, half the work, inevitably, if we present two directions, 50% immediately is thrown in the garbage every single time.
Yeah.
But we become better designers by making that second direction. So as long as we learned something or we had some amount of fun or like it informed the next thing, it's always worth it.
Got
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Daniel.
Hi, team. Love
Yo,
the
what's up, dude? How
prezzo.
are you?
I'm doing
Hello.
all right. Hey, I love how much you have talked about emerging technologies and kind of being open-minded towards those concepts. And so I guess I'm curious, and maybe it's not a quick answer, but do you think your concepts are inspiring you towards new tech, new ways of exploring these things? Or do you think this new tech is inspiring you towards new ways of developing concepts, a little bit of both? What are your thoughts there?
That is a very good
Yeah, that is a
question.
wonderful question. I could talk about this for like 3 hours. It's both 100%. Because I'll see something like when we did Alma, I had no idea that that was possible in Alma. And so that like just playing with the tool to me was like the tool kind of guided me through it, but like I knew I kind of was chasing something. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't think we ever would have thought of the idea of collage necessarily if they hadn't challenged us to think about that particular use case.
Yeah.
And then we were trying to solve for that use case, and that led us to a new design solution. But I think it's natural for us because we always have believed, my background is actually writing. I'm a copywriter. And so we are not one of those places where we're like, I write all the words and then you just design them and don't touch them. We're very much a back and forth. So I'm constantly changing words halfway through. And he's like, his design ideas, I'm like, let me back into that with content. And I think it's the same with technology. It's like a constant push and pull, and like, oh, the tech can do this, then maybe we can design it like this. Or maybe we have this design idea, let's see if the technology can do that.
Yeah, there's that quote from like Brian Eno or whatever, where he's just like, when the speaker goes a little too loud and creates that feedback, like that's how I push the AI to do that. Like that's where you find the art, that's where you find the excitement, and like where you're breaking it is the most exciting part.
Love that quote. Thank you.
Yeah.
Barbara.
Hey guys, I'm such a huge fan. So I wanted to ask, after you guys onboard the client and you start the inspo process and you start gathering ideas, after a direction is picked, do you have a rigid process where you start with a logo, or do you just start creating different things, or does the logo dictate how the brand's gonna be?
That's a great question. Yeah, logo comes first. It doesn't necessarily have to. There have been times where like your idea, like with Alma, for example, the idea for collage actually came before we came up with the logo itself.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to come first, but for us, a logo is so informative. It sort of sets the tone for what comes next. Is your logo really serious? Is it really illustrative? Is it really like ornate? Is it really simple? And that can sort of like inform the rest of your brand language. So, and it's much easier to build a brand out from a logo than to back a logo into an existing brand. So that's the sort of like normal way to do it, is to start with the logo and then build from there.
Yeah, because like if you go brand first and then you're just throwing logos on top of things, there will be kind of like an inherent like
It's just harder.
Yeah, it's just a little bit harder. You have to push and pull it a little bit more. I love the logo part of it because like I'm drawing on like physically drawing on paper and thinking a lot about how the shapes interact and what I can do with things. And a lot of my sketches are literally just like arrows that only I know what they mean. Like, and so that kind of stuff is like a really important part of the process of just allowing yourself to breathe an idea, I think is really important. Because if you just jump into brand, you'll probably start making trendy stuff really quickly.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Dan.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Chara.
The Drexel boy. How you doing, man?
What's up? I'm good. I'm good. First of all, thank you again for putting this on. The presentation was super inspiring.
Cool.
I wanted to ask, obviously coming up with these moves takes a lot of time and development. I am curious, how do you kind of communicate these things to clients while you are in the process of coming up with them?
Oh, yes. Well, I'll tell you my like secret project management weapon, which is you plan more time than you need.
Yeah.
So I tell the team we're going to be done on Monday, and I tell the client we're going to present it on Friday, and then we have a whole week to mess around.
Yeah.
And that mess around time is super important. Often it's like the 2 days before the presentation that we were supposed to be done, that like the best and most interesting stuff comes out because we're like, we thought we were done and now we're just messing around. And I think that that's really, really fun. My other secret is not locking us in too specifically to a timeline early on. We give our clients a little bit of wiggle room. Oh, we'll present it this week sometime, instead of like, it will be on the 23rd and drop dead. And that gives our team, like, if we need one more day to mess around, come up with some moves, try the moves out, make sure they're working, we have that already built in.
Yeah. Some of our most fun stuff has came out like 1 hour before the presentation.
Truly. That's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, Andrea.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam.
All right. Hello. Thank you so much. It was such an amazing like Zoom call. And before I was just talking to my husband and he asked me like, what are your favorite like studios? And then I said Smith Diction. Like it's such an amazing work. And from your presentation. So I'm working with my husband now on projects. We haven't had any clients yet. Like he's a UI UX designer, and I'm like just graduated from graphic design. Mm-hmm. My kind of work, I would say, is more like as like creative, and like I also love like to hand draw like a lot of like logos and all of these things, which I liked about your project. But he's also very into AI and like crypto companies and all of that, which I really like about your clients, because it's really like a mix of clients that you have. How did you get, for example, your first clients? How did that first project, for example, for Explore, lead you to have Perplexity and all of those other like projects? But because both of you like doing different things, I imagine, and you work with different people, but like your projects have like a lot of variety. So how do you blend that?
So to kind of reiterate what I was saying in the beginning, like every connection matters. Like me talking to Josh, working on the rail park, and now I'm here. Like funny enough, like we got Perplexity through that cafe, that the mascot with the dragon. Like it was for a Vietnamese coffee shop, and Phi is Vietnamese, and he was just like, I love that work. And so it was one of those things where it just the cultures tied us together, and he saw what I did for that, and then he took a shot on us working on from a coffee shop to a gigantic tech brand is to a very large leap. But everything is connected. And as long as your quality is there, as long as the exceptionalism is there in terms of like what you're putting out, I think that you can kind of do whatever you want, and you can convince people to do whatever you want as long as the bar is really high.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like very like some of those projects seem to be more like passion projects, but they're also like just because you're good enough, you can do both of them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's
I mean, the rail park that we worked on with Josh was a passion project. Mike like poured it. They had no money. There wasn't even a real park when he came to us. He's like, we want to build a park.
Yeah, it didn't
Help
exist.
us maybe build a park. And that was 100% passion project. And we poured our entire heart into that for years. And so many other things came from that. So you can't ever look at any project as the end.
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much.
Of course. I want to answer one question I saw in the comments, which is what about copy moves? There are so many copy moves. There are so many copy.
Totally another session.
Yeah, different session.
But
This one's mine.
Next session. But that copy is in and of itself, and then there are specific moves that I could talk about within copy as well.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna go. You guys okay to go a little over time?
Yeah, we can go over.
Two more people with their hands up. We'll try to get to them.
Great.
RJ.
What's up, RJ?
What's up? Yeah, I don't know if I have a question. I'm more of just trying to steal Car back because she used to be my writing partner. So my work suffered ever since you left.
Stop it.
No, I guess I got a two-parter for you. One's more on the business side. The other's more on the opposite of the business / all the AI side. So I've moved more into like a producer role, still doing, the creative director, graphic design thing. But something I've noticed a lot because of the pesky AI is just the difference in clients' attitudes in terms of how long things take and how much they should cost.
Yeah.
And I know you guys, I don't want to put the word boutique design agency on you, but I imagine more of your clients are coming wanting what you create and less about just looking for a brand, right? They want your style. But I was curious in how, if you've experienced that at the kind of zone that you guys find in your sweet spot and how you've kind of combated that in terms of your process.
Yes, great question. We talk pretty openly with our clients about AI versus not AI, and we basically give them not this presentation this long, but the same speech of like, AI is one move, and it might be the move for you, and it might not be. So we had like a client who was their audience was small business owners, and they were like, we wanted to use AI people to make it feel real. And we were like, that's wrong. You need a photo shoot because like you can't convey that this is a real product for real people, that you're gonna have real conversations with AI people. Like that's just not where we're at. So instead you should do a photo shoot. And they did, and they listened and they heard the strategy behind that. Whereas other clients like Alma, they're like, we want to specifically feel this way, and AI can be the solve. But as I feel like a lot of folks these days are so aware of AI, and all they want is to not feel like they're spending way too much money on something they could have gotten cheaper and faster with AI. So if you have an open conversation about why you're choosing to recommend AI versus not AI versus a photo shoot versus whatever else, and the associated costs and timelines, I feel like just like busting it open and being honest is the best approach that we've found.
Yeah. And we've had like a few clients that want to look like AI. Like we've had a few of those, and those are a little bit trickier for us, but we always try to put our spin on it. And like Chara said, take the approach where it still is multiplying, not replacing. And I think that is something that is just in our ethos, and we're allowed to kind of work on projects that align with that because of how small we are. And always just like, yeah, I love making art and things like that. So I want to make sure that everything that we put out, I'm super excited about, and I feel really, and I can stand behind. And that's, you know, if it's AI, it's AI. You know, I thought putting that Alma work was like a huge risk. And then it ended up being okay, which was great. And, you know, that's because there's a lot of honesty behind what we were doing with it.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Sorry.
Thanks.
All right.
I was gonna ask a weird bonus question, but since we're short on time, we're cool.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna do Bella, Chris, and then we're gonna lock it up. Okay, Bella, you go.
Hi, thanks so much. First of all, of course, amazing presentation. Enjoy listening to you guys talk every time. But my question is, when you have all of these moves, all of these different components and pieces of these projects, how do you decide which ones get presented to your clients, or do you present all of them?
Great question. It totally depends. Like I'll just be straight up. When we presented Perplexity, we were like, here is everything. You have 1,000 moves, take your pick. And sometimes that's like, it's a trust thing with the client. Like we really trusted them. We were working really closely with them, and we knew that they were smart enough to like not pick the things that didn't go well together. Other times you look at a client and you're like, if I give them everything, they're going to use everything on the same layout and it's going to look terrible. So then we do more of like a curation of a pick and choose. And that's really where we do brand work. And we say, how do we make sure that if they do decide to use 4 of these things, like they're using an illustration on top of a pattern with this layout, is it going to break it immediately? And one of the things that we do is I don't have a design background. I'm really a copywriter, but people like me build in brands all the time. They make decks, they make all kinds of things. They work in Canva. If I can make something beautiful, that means the brand is working. You can hand it to like your marketing arm and they can make something. If I struggle, that means we don't have enough moves or we have too many moves and I'm confused. So I'm like the idiot test basically for all the designers, because Mike can make anything look gorgeous no matter what he has, but me less so.
All right, Chris, final question.
Yeah, thanks. One, again, great presentation. First off, and then two, thank you for always putting this stuff out there too for the community, whether it's this presentation or the process one or even the Google Fonts one, which is amazing. So just thank you for constantly just sharing your knowledge and experience with everyone. I'm sure everyone appreciates it. My question relates specifically to motion and animation. When you first are in discussions with a client, is that part of the original scope of work, like from the get-go, or is that something that kind of gets talked about halfway through and then maybe becomes a second scope of work? I've found that usually it's one of those things where it's a cost thing, and like one of the first things to go is like, well, get motion and let's just bring the price down. How do you approach that part of the conversation?
That's a really good question. We do it a bunch of different ways. Sometimes like motion was not in the Perplexity scope, but we knew that motion was going to sell the concept. And we're like, this logo is better in motion. That's the whole idea. So we just put it into our own budget. We don't tell them it's deliverable, but we put it in there. And we do that a lot when we feel like the concept that we are trying to present is best done in motion. We are lucky that we have some folks in-house who can help us with like conceptual motion. And then sometimes we'll be like, great. And then if you like it, we'll go pay to have like it done really smoothly or done in 3D or done in glass or whatever we need to do. And other times, if it's longer form, we have to put that as a separate budget, because you can't just toss that in. You can toss in a 10-second thing. You can't toss in a 30-second video.
I wouldn't say 10 seconds. 10 seconds is long.
10 seconds is too long. 2 seconds?
You can toss a half a second thing in there for sure.
A type out and spin you can toss in. You can't toss it in.
Yeah, I will gladly eat a budget to pay an animator. That it's just like, it's something that's important to me. It's something I personally like to invest in. I have like a few animators that I'll plug here. Justin Laws, Brent Klaus, James Didvig, who am I missing? Claudio and Jordan Scott. Those guys are they're just awesome at what they do. It's awesome to work with really great professionals. And so I just like to give them money.
The end.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Mike, Chara. Awesome job, man. This is great.
Thank you.
So I think as we wrap up here, is there any sort of like final words, things you want to sort of shout out to the community, ways they can support you or follow up?
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go
That's
Birds.
right. To me, it's just like, do your best to make sure that you're always giving something back. Give more than you take. That's something that's the most important to me. Just give more than you take, because it will come back. I promise.
Yeah.
All right, amazing. Well, thank you for giving us your time. This amazing presentation. Thank you everybody for joining us. Hope to see you on a future Spaces.